All right, nice. We are live. Welcome back, everybody, to another Purpose Serve podcast episode. You already know it's your legendary host, Darren Wingfield. And today we have a special guest on the podcast. We have Bill Goodwin. Bill Goodwin is a public speaker, spoken many places, many good spaces. Bill Goodwin is also CEO of Priority Living Consulting Group. And we will be having a very, very special conversation indeed. And a lot of things that he's doing in the lines with what we're doing here, Purpose Serve, and leading people in personal development and growing with their purpose and their vision and looking to live that out, actualize that instead of it staying in your head as an idea or a forethought. So, yeah, the very first question that I do want to ask you to start this off is, what is Priority Living Consulting Group and how did it all get started?
Well, Daryl, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and to my new friend that's on the other end listening, welcome. Whether you're most likely driving in your car or going for a walk or maybe on a treadmill, we're glad that you can join Daryl and I in this conversation. So Priority Living Consulting Group is the business that I started in 2021. And the focus really is adding value, equipping leaders. And so I provide a variety of services, whether, like you said, it's public speaking on leadership topics, it's coaching one-on-one and group coaching. I also do training for different size businesses. I work with everything from corporate clients that are working with their C-suite level leaders on down to mid-level management. I also work with entrepreneurs and small business owners. So it's a wide variety of wonderful clients that I have the privilege of serving. And so that's what Priority Living is all about. And that's how it got started. Was in 2021. I just really decided that it was time to launch something new. You know, for many of us, that time frame of the pandemic really caused us to do some soul searching and kind of look at where our life was at and where our life was headed. And this is a space that I have, it's not new to me. I've been training and equipping leaders for over 30 years and really felt like it was time to launch something significant. Over time, I now have other coaches and other team members that are a part of Priority Living. So it's no longer a solopreneurship, but now it's a growing team, and we're adding value and raising up leaders. I'm also a part of Maxwell Leadership with best-selling author John Maxwell, and I'll just steal a tagline there from Maxwell Leadership because it applies to what I do with Priority Living Consulting Group as well. And that simply, Daryl, is everyone deserves to be led well, and that's really what we're all about.
That's something that you mentioned. Was you talking about like that time period of 2020 and 2021 with a lot of people doing like a lot of soul searching? In the work that you started, did you notice during that time period a lot of people switching up their lifestyle drastically when you started what you were doing? Because like dealing with entrepreneurship and all of that, you most likely got a lot of people that just went out into a totally different market that they never been in before and did like a drastic shift. Was that something that you was experiencing when you first started?
Somewhat, yeah, absolutely. You know, that time frame from August of 2020 to for about the next year was even, named the Great Recession, meaning that people, especially at top level positions, as they've evaluated their life and the amount of investment of their time in their work, we saw many people make shifts. And so I experienced that obviously personally, but I also watched that happen with others. And some of those people, a small percentage of them, but a percentage of those people also did become clients of mine. Daryl, I always believe that your now leads to your next. So my friend, if you're listening and you're thinking, man, I don't know if I'm doing exactly what I ultimately want to be doing, I will say that keep doing what you're doing because your now leads to your next.
That's funny. I was gonna eventually like bring up that quote right there. Like at some point in this interview, to be quite honest, because when
Mm-hmm.
we last met last week, when you said that, I'm like, wow, that's like super profound. And if you could even break that down in even more depth, like for us, like what does that
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah, what does it mean? It means that, in order to accomplish or to do what you're ultimately called to do, it goes back to your purpose. We can really dive into purpose here. Yeah, I'm purpose served. I'm passionate about purpose. But if you're ultimately going to get to doing what you were called ultimately to do, call that your destiny, there's preparation that comes. And so there's tasks and things that we do, or jobs that we have, or people we meet along the way. And really we could be making a difference as we go through life, but really ultimately those things are stepping stones to get you to where you're ultimately going. I'll use a biblical reference. I'm a person of faith. I'll use a biblical reference for your listeners that, we know that David, who became King David, was originally a shepherd boy. And scripture tells us in the Old Testament that he fought the bear and he fought the lion. And that was preparing him for someday that he would take lunch to his brothers on the front line, and he would end up getting a few smooth stones and a slingshot and taking out this big Philistine giant called Goliath. Well, he wasn't ready to take on Goliath prior to that. He had to get through some things first, like defeating the bear and the lion, and then he was able to take on that giant. So for each of us, we have things in our own life. We have our own giants, if you will, that we
Yeah,
ultimately want to accomplish and slay. But it takes preparation to get there. And so, part of a coaching framework that I use with my clients, there's a couple other previous questions to this, but a third question we get to is, who do I need to become in order to accomplish what you ultimately want? And there is personal development that takes place, Daryl, in all of our lives. And sometimes you may not be in the position that you dream to be in because you haven't developed the skill set, you haven't developed the experience, different things in order to accomplish that. So there's always a need to reflect upon, what do I need to do, who do I need to become in order to accomplish what I ultimately want. I'll share with you quickly, my mentor, John Maxwell, best-selling author and leadership expert, shares a story that he was done with a speaking engagement, and he was signing books, and a young man came up to him in the book signing line and said, listening to you today, I decided I want to do what you do. And John said, well, that's great. So you're telling me you want to do what I do? And the young man, probably college age, said, oh yeah, I want to do what you do. And then John looked at him and said, well, that's great, but are you willing to do what I did in order to do what I do?
great question.
And that reframes the whole thing. So our now leads to our next. So if you apply yourself to whatever it is you're doing now in preparation, then over time you'll take the next step and the next step and the next step and evolve into maybe your dream job and fulfilling what you ultimately feel called to fulfill.
That this is going to lead honestly into my like next question, because yet again that was also very very important that you said that. I'm like a basketball trainer and I train kids, and the one thing that they
Mhm.
don't understand for the most part is that there's building blocks, and you need a fundamental foundation to work upon before you jump up to being a really really good player. And a lot of times they want to skip those baby steps. And something that's essential to know is just that all of these little things that you're doing right now, you need these small little victories for that major war that you're a part of, and for that thing that you're committing to. And like I said, as a kid, it's hard to like see that like full fledged of what that actually means. You literally have to go through it. You got to go through all of those steps. It just can't stay in your head. And the next question that this leads me to is what was your childhood like? And we spoke on David, and those experiences, even for David, was him in his childhood that led to like a major moment, like biblically speaking, and in history as well. Like that was a major moment before he ever became king, before he even ever dealt with Saul for the first time. These were major moments that happened to him as a child, and yeah, that's actually really relevant that you even brought all of this up. So yeah, what was your childhood like?
Daryl, I love this. We're headed in a great direction in our conversation. I knew we would. So
Absolutely.
I think I'll share about my upbringing here in a moment, but I just want to add to the conversation of what you just said with your basketball students. Basketball players. There's work that we all have to do to become great at something. There's work that we have to do in the dark.
Absolutely.
And Anthony Trucks, who's a former NFL player, talks about this dark work, he calls it. And I really believe that to be true. It's the things that you do when nobody's looking. For those basketball players, it's how many hours do you spend shooting baskets or doing drills and nobody's looking. I mean, we know the stories of great basketball players like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, who and many others that start their morning at 4 a.m. and Kobe Bryant would have his own workout 1 to 2 hours before any of the team ever even showed up at the practice court. It's the work that you do in the dark. It's the work that you do when nobody's looking. And really what it comes down to is I believe this little phrase to be true as well, Daryl, and that is whatever it is that you do in the dark, that you do when nobody's looking, it's stored up before it shows up. It's stored up before it shows up. So we're constantly. So for me, I'm doing work when nobody's looking. I'm reading. I'm educating myself. I'm growing myself. I'm writing. I'm meeting with a coach and a mentor. I'm doing the things that I need to do to keep growing myself. And then I can show up on a stage or show up as a consultant or show up as a coach, and people go, "Wow, how do you get to be so, at this caliber?" And I appreciate their compliment, but you just don't show up there. You don't go to the top. You grow to the top, and so that's really what it's all about. So for my upbringing, I currently live in Minnesota. I grew up in Arizona, the warm climate of Arizona. And I have an uncle and an aunt who were entrepreneurs based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. They had a wonderful, I guess you'd call it a small business, but they were entrepreneurs and they did very, very well. And they were incredible with their team, the way they treated their team. And my uncle and aunt would come out with their family to visit us in Arizona. And when I was a teenager, my uncle really saw potential in me and he took me under his wing. Meaning he began to teach me about setting goals. He began to teach me about personal development. He began to give me self-help books and teachings from Zig Ziglar,
And I
and
don't mean to
others.
cut you off,
Yeah.
because I do want you to continue. But I remember watching one of the interviews that you had and talking about your uncle and the influence that he had. And please don't forget your train of thought right now. But
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, what was some of the self-help books and materials that he was giving you like during that time period?
hmm Yeah. He gave me Zig Ziglar's book. It's called "See You at the Top."
Mm,
He gave me another book by Og Mandino called The Greatest Salesman in the World.
great book.
Other books like that. Many different books introduced me to Brian Tracy, and many other great leaders back then. Norman Vincent Peale and Robert Schuller. I mean, so many of these inspirational possibility thinkers that he introduced me to. Think and Grow Rich. And so many of these many of these books now are classics.
Yeah.
And then as well as back then it wasn't a podcast. Back then it was cassette tapes, and so I was listening to cassette tapes of Zig Ziglar and others, and those were really influential and inspirational, and really things that I began to apply in my life when I was 15, 16, 17 years of age.
Wow. So I know like around that time, especially around that time, like I feel as though, especially when you get into like your high school era of things, it's like this unconscious molding that you're going into that's going to like is ultimately deciding the rest of your life in such a weird way. I don't even know how to like explain it, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy where you're either going to go this way or you're going to go that way, and if you once you commit to that path, it's going to start figuring itself like out like all along. Did you envision yourself one day being the person that you are today when you was that age?
Well, I don't know that I did. If I were to look back, if I were to, give my 16-year-old self some advice, I love thinking about that.
Yeah.
If you think about giving your younger self some advice, I would say just get, which I ended up doing anyway, but just stay on the path of personal development. And I grew up in a household that was church going and faith based, but it was when I was 15 that I made my personal faith commitment to accept, my Savior Jesus Christ into my heart. So to have spiritual growth and personal growth continue to be a part of my life for all these years has been a really important part of what I value in life and how I choose to live my life. So yeah, that was very influential, all of that, and it continues to be even to this day.
With that being said, this kind of like I guess on a deeper aspect. Now that you like mention it, do you believe that there's a difference between um personal development and spiritual development, or do you believe that those two are one and the same?
Well, they definitely complement each other. I do know people that obviously people of faith that are growing in their faith and also involved in the personal development space. And I can see where those really go hand in hand together. But I would even say that I've seen it to be true of people that maybe aren't necessarily persons of one particular faith, or maybe they would claim to be agnostic or atheist, but they are in the personal development space. And so I think you can be in that lane and maybe not be so focused on the spiritual growth side. But I've seen it over and over again, and it's true of my life that they really go hand in hand together.
To even back up what you're saying, I truly believe the same thing, that personal development and like spiritual development is one and the same. And for me personally, and you
Mhm.
have better expertise than me in this regard, because you firsthand dealing with the market itself. But it just seems like within like the last like couple of years, there's been this weird stalemate in regards to like personal development. And I want to say due to the fact of it turned into a cliche thing and people forgetting the root of what it means to personally develop individually speaking, instead of finding a collective
Mm.
group, to like ultimately, honestly, it's like almost as if that they are shying away from themselves and the progress that they need and looking for exterior things rather than internal things to really make them grow and take action towards being the person that they're destined to be. And all right, so I'm gonna ask this question first: is purpose internal or external?
Boy, is purpose internal or external? Well, first we discover our purpose, and that is definitely internal work that we do is internal, and then we live our purpose once we discover it. So that's external work. So not sure where you're headed there, my friend, but I'm gonna say there's a piece of both that really plays out when it comes to purpose. It's an internal work that we do to discover our purpose, and then once we discover it, it definitely is something that we live, and that's what gives us great fulfillment is when we give the best of what we have to others, which is our purpose, and so that is definitely external.
So, like with purpose served, even in like the name itself, there's something that I'm pretty sure I told you in the last time we talked. Like, there's a catchphrase that we say here. Like, I end everything with saying "serve your purpose," and just like you said, for me, I believe that purpose is internal. And when I say like service and serving it, that is the external aspect of the purpose. You taking action towards your goals and aspirations, which makes those things like come together. What's internal, you are connecting the external. And we talked about this like last week. I'm also a man of faith as well. And even when closely like looking at this, and this is something that I was reflecting on deeply. I want to say a month or two ago, and the two greatest commandments that was given, loving the Lord your God and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And that's also that internal and external aspect at play right there, where, you have to go inside to find the Lord your God. You're not going to find that outside of yourself, but you will find your neighbor outside of yourself. And if you love yourself, you're gonna treat your neighbor in the same manner, and this leads me to the next question of, do you believe that everyone has purpose in their life?
No, there are people that don't have any. I'm just teasing you. Yeah. I saw the look on your face. If you're watching the video, folks, you need to rewind it and look at Daryl's face there. Yeah, absolutely. We all were born with a purpose. I love the quote from oh gosh, I'm still laughing at what just happened there. So I love the quote from Mark Twain, where he said, "The two greatest days in your life is the day you were born and the day you discover why." We all have purpose. We all were born to live a purpose that our Creator has set inside each of us. That's why we need to discover that purpose, so that we discover why we were born. What's the reason? We could say what's the purpose you were born, but what's the reason you were born? And matter of fact, in my book here, which is called Priority Living, 7 Pillars to Make Your Life Count, the first pillar of those 7 pillars, Daryl, it's the pillar of purpose. And in that chapter, I have 10 questions that help the reader unpack their purpose, so that to help you discover your purpose, so you can get clear on why it is you're here and how you can make a difference, how when you give the best of what you have to others, you're living your purpose. And in return for that, you're going to be much more fulfilled in your life, have much more satisfaction and joy in your life. I'll say it this way, live a life of bliss, because you are living your purpose.
Yeah, so for anybody that's struggling to find their purpose right now, that book will be in the description below. So please support what Bill is doing. He's doing great work. And like I said, if you are in that dilemma right now, or you kind of found your purpose and you even need more clarity, that book will be in the description below for everybody that's watching. And how would you define leadership?
Oh, leadership. Well, my goodness, I think there's many definitions of leadership. I would say that the best definition, and I'm maybe a little biased on this, but it's John Maxwell's definition of leadership, which is simply leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So I talk to people all the time and they say, "Oh, I'm not a leader." Well, you're a leadership coach. Yeah, I don't know if I could benefit from you because I'm not a leader. I'd say, whoa, wait a minute here. Leadership is influence. So when we have influence, by the way, that doesn't make you positive or negative. There are high road leaders that bring positivity and lead well and make a positive difference in a business or a community or a nation. And there are low road leaders that are out for themselves and that are out to see what they can gain and don't treat people well. And so just because someone has influence doesn't mean they're always using it in the right way for positive outcomes for those that they lead. But leadership is influence, and so we can make a difference when we just even I'll give this example. Even if you go to any playground and there's a lot of children playing at that playground, just sit and watch the children for a while. There could even be children that have never met before, but they end up being at the playground at the same time, and they start playing together. And you watch, there will be a child that will take the lead, and they will say, "Hey, let's play tag," and everyone goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, let's play tag." And then a little while later, after playing tag, that same child says, "Let's run over to the swings," and everybody goes, "Yeah, yeah, let's go over to the swings." Well, that child does not have a position. That child does not have a title. But what does that child have? That child has influence.
That's
Therefore,
a
that
great
child is
point.
leading. So it's not a position. It's not a title. It's actually influence.
Wow. And do you believe that people who are in leadership positions, like the good ones, do you believe that they were good followers first, or not always?
Yeah, not always. And we know that people get put in leadership positions for a whole variety of reasons. And quite honestly, not all of them, not all people are put in leadership positions that they should be in. They could have got put in there because they knew someone. They could have got put in there because, there wasn't another option. So they, by default, got the position. There's a whole variety of reasons why people get put in positions or elevated in positions of leadership. And so, were they a good follower? Not necessarily. But they, for some reason, were given an opportunity to take on a leadership role.
And do you see right now in the climate of the world that it's in right now, would you say that this is like great leadership in general?
In general, wow. Well, how are you talking? In business or politics or in general? What do you mean?
So all of that, all across the board,
Yeah, all of it.
because and in a sense, this is how I see it. Like a lot of things is that you can see, depending on what time period it is, like common themes. And this is something that a term that I got from Carl Jung, where it's called like the spirit of the times, where collectively the world is showing certain signs of, due to the fact of the behavior that's being carried out, and the behavior that's being carried out, which I know you like familiar with, is ultimately what's internal, what's going on in somebody's thoughts and feelings that's coming out, but it's been long brewing beforehand before it turned into action, whether people are
Mm-hmm.
conscious of it or unconscious of it. And that's why I like saying in such like a general way, but you can see
Mm-hmm.
that, and that's in essence like the world is moving into a particular direction, and
Mm-hmm.
ultimately people follow leadership unconsciously if they're not conscious about it, even when they're conscious about it. And have you noticed, if you ever like took the time out, like I guess to think about this, that like the direction of the leadership, and if that's like if it's taking like a positive or negative effect on people, like the general public?
Yeah. Well, I would say, so when you're talking very general terms, I think overall we probably are living in a time that could be described as leadership sad,
Mm,
because leadership really is should be about lifting other people up. And so I'm not talking specifically politics, but I'm not keeping politics out of it. But when I'm talking, like you asked, a general term, whether it be in business or in variety of ways. And I say leadership sad because, I don't see a lot of really good examples in business and so on, that young people, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, can look as role models. There are some out there, but the, overall, compared to past generations, I think we see some leadership that's just really self-serving and not really lifting other people up.
and I totally agree with that. Heike, that's why I asked the question to
Sure.
begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have like a political preference or in like any of that at all. For me, like just the way that I carry myself personally speaking, I think that it's people's best bet to figure out who they are first and foremost before they shape like a worldview towards anything, because that's how you get like easily deceived. And something that you just now mentioned is something that I personally been noticing due to the fact of how we are starting to become to use technology and all of that, which is shaping a major viewpoint on how we see the world through digital through a digital screen, through a black screen, which is like
Yes.
insane to me, which is incredibly helpful. But it's just like, a knife. You can use it to slice bread or you can use it to harm somebody. But the one thing that you pointed out that, that I like is that the leadership that's in place right now, all across the board, no matter what it is, business, politics, whatever, is that is highly self-serving. And they're doing a lot of things in a, I guess, blatantly to say it, in a narcissistic way. And people are buying into it. And I believe that that's the same thing like that they see within themselves, is they're self-serving as well. And that's the one thing that they got in common, that it seemed like people don't notice. And I think that there are a lot of great leaders out there that are selfless in the way that they conduct themselves. But right now, in the spirit of the times that we're living in, that's something that people don't appreciate right now at all. So those people will get left in the dark. But I believe that those are the people that's really of true value right now, more than ever, like more than ever. So do you think that there will ever be a turn with the pendulum swinging in that direction, or are we kind of set right now in the direction that we're going in?
Oh, I always have hope. I'm a hope strategist. I absolutely am a hope dealer. I absolutely believe that as people are equipped and trained, and my goodness, I can go on for stories of what's happening even around our country in schools as well as in other countries. Just for example, through the Maxwell Leadership Foundation, that we're bringing in a program on values into schools called I Lead, and young people, eighth grade on up, are learning good values and learning leadership. And I think that we're raising up a new generation. You see it right now, even with certain movements that are happening within Gen Z, where there's an awakening happening to values, to faith, and I think that's all going to play out as these young people have greater opportunity for influence. In other words, greater opportunity for leadership. And so, yeah, I always have hope that we can see change happen in a positive way, and have some really outstanding people that are currently in leadership that begin to change their ways and grow themselves, and also the younger generation coming up.
That is an amazing answer. And if only people develop more so of, I guess, that mindset of having a little bit more faith and a little bit more hope, that would make a major difference. Like I
Yeah.
truly believe that. And that's why having like a mindset
Don't for,
like
don't forget love in there too. You said faith and hope. Don't forget
faith,
some
hope,
love.
and love. And the most
We
important
need that.
thing,
We need that too, my friend. Yeah.
love, absolutely. It's crazy. One of the books that I have in here, of course, it's talking about what St. Paul said, one of those three things, but it moved me where he said just have faith and hope guide your steps, and have love be the head of everything that you do. And I'm sitting there and I was just like, man, that is some deep stuff. And for people that's like walking in darkness, spiritually, and it comes across physically as well, that no matter what, you want to be moving through a space of darkness. And when you're dealing with people that is ultimately trying to get their idea or business off the ground or change something in a major way, how do you guide them through their darkness to get to the light? And I know that comes with the nature of your business in many different shapes and sizes. So it's not like a one shoe fits all. But if you had to like hypothetically talk to somebody that just brought to you a business idea that they're trying to do and they feel as though it's not working and they need a shift, how would you guide them in a sense to get to that light while they're maneuvering through the darkness?
Well, you ask good questions here, Daryl. I think what I'm going to say to that is it starts with the individual. It starts with all of us. Transformation in our society, in our business, whatever. Transformation starts in me. Each one of us take responsibility of learning and living good values and learning and living how to be good leaders. So that's where it all starts, is how you are developing yourself. We talked about this, kind of earlier, the importance of personal development. If you're a person of faith, spiritual development as well, because those all develop us in our character, and our character, along with our giftings and our experiences, play into our passion and our purpose. And that's how we lead well, is by living according to those values and living according to the character that we ultimately want to live. So I think that's really where it all starts. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree 110%. I see that a common issue with people when trying to live something out that they have an idea of, and them getting stuck, is that they're very results driven. And not necessarily saying like being results driven is like a bad thing, because it is a good thing. But something that you spoke on is the character of who you trying to become, and learning through this character and essentially being. And that gets so overlooked because of, like, to me, I think that impatience is a very, very dangerous thing. And patience is so important, and it's so overlooked at the same time. And social media is making impatience like the forefront thing. And people, like, if they don't get that validation for as small as like putting a post up and they're not getting the likes and stuff like that, it makes them feel less than themselves inside. Something external, yet again, playing with this duality of external and internal, it makes them feel less than themselves. And none of that stuff should matter at all. Where are you at in your heart, and where's your heart posture at? That's the most important thing for me personally speaking. So no matter what it is that you're doing in business, no matter what you're doing, like when it comes to like your family, who you are in your heart should be the most important thing on how you tackle anything and everything in your life. And to me personally, if your heart posture is in the right place, you will prosper, as long as it's aligned into the will of God. Just bringing faith like into it. But that's essentially, for me personally, like with everything live, are you aligned into the will of God? And that I think that, going back to the idea of the spirit of the times right now, a lot of people are going contrary to that. And when you are not facing the light, that means that your back is towards God and you facing the basin, and you are looking at the face of the deep, essentially speaking. And I think that when we look at, like, for example, this device, like right here, like we're looking like at this black screen, that's facing the deep, spiritually speaking. And I think that that's ultimately is what's affecting the character of people being who they're destined to become, because they're results driven.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like that's my idea on it all, like right there. And how was your like first experience, like when you first met John C. Maxwell, a very, very, very important guy, just in general, a very influential guy. And I read some of his stuff, and it influenced my life as well. I'm not even gonna lie.
Good. Glad that's been beneficial for you. Well, the introduction came, I've been reading John Maxwell books for literally decades, and I've seen him at conferences, on the stage. I've been, seeing things online as well. And in 2018, through a friend of mine, we were invited to spend the day in Atlanta, a day with John Maxwell. and there was, I don't know, 30 or 40 leaders that were invited at that time. And that was a very life-changing day for me, because not only was I in the room with a small group of people with John, listening to him teach us, but I also had the opportunity, of course, to meet him in person. And when the morning was starting, before he started to teach, and introduced myself and actually did a selfie with him. He's very gracious, and we did a selfie together. And later that day, through some things that he was sharing, really were resonating with me on a deeper level than just leadership, more on a personal level. And I went over during a break and shared that with him, and he was very gracious to me and very encouraging to me. And we had an incredible conversation together. And then a friend that had invited me said that, he's got at that time it was called the John Maxwell team, coaching team. And since then they've rebranded it to be called Maxwell Leadership. However, my friend told me about, the team, and said, you might want to look into this. Well, just things happening in my life and things going on then wasn't quite the right time. Then we moved into the pandemic, and not that much longer after that, within the next couple of years. And so it was in March of 21 that I felt like it's time now. I need to join the Maxwell Leadership team, and had many different opportunities to be mentored by John, as well as an incredible faculty of leaders you can imagine that he has surrounded himself with. So it's been, and matter of fact, the CEO, who's been with Mark Cole, who's been with John for 25 years, did the foreword to my book. So very, very grateful for Mark and his leadership too. So there's wonderful leaders around John, and it's growing. It's growing, Maxwell Leadership. So if you're in that leadership space and you're like, you want to be with a community of incredible other growth-minded people, that Maxwell Leadership might be your tribe, like it is mine. I don't know the exact number now, but there's somewhere around 58,000 Maxwell certified coaches around the world, pretty much from every country on the planet. And we're growing that. I think in the coming years, maybe the next 5 to 7 years, we want to see that be 100,000 coaches. So if you're listening, this might be the invitation for you to check out Maxwell Leadership, and tell them I sent you, by the way.
Nice. And you also a man of traveling. Throughout the years, what has traveling taught you about life and human nature?
Well, I would say that I really do enjoy traveling, whether it's for business or pleasure. And I enjoy traveling because I love exploring. I love exploring, seeing new parts of creation. I love seeing cultures and meeting new people. I'm always loving to meet new people. So traveling is really something that has given me a much broader perspective. Sometimes we can get kind of stuck in our world, which is, if you're watching this versus audio, I got my hands over my eyes. We just get kind of blinders on, kind of like a horse with blinders. And we think that the whole world is wrapped up around our 10 miles that we go, or whatever it is. But there's a big world out there, and there's a lot we can learn about ourselves. There's a lot we can learn about others. And quite honestly, there's a lot we can learn about Creator God, who created this beautiful planet that we get to call home. So I love to explore, and I love to see new things and meet new people.
Man, I do believe that, like, people do get trapped in their way of being, in their way of thinking, based off of the environment that they close themselves off to. And I also encourage people to travel and see different places of the world. And if you don't even have access to that, see different places in your state or your country. Really accept that call to adventure, to go to a different place and be around people and situations that you're not necessarily used to, because it is mind-blowing in a sense to leave your place of comfort. And you do notice commonalities between other people's way of life with yours, even though it's a drastically different environment. Is something that you also said that I liked is, it also shows the work of Creator God, and the simplicity and the diversity and what he's able to do and what he's done and what he's doing. And this is something that one of the last questions that I'm going to ask you is, what is your end goal? And this is something that I believe that I asked you last week as well.
Boy, I wonder if I'm going to answer it the same. Yeah, I'd say, Daryl, my passion, and it helps me to fulfill my purpose, is creating environments around a cause to inspire, people to become better versions of themselves. So I'm all about this personal development and leadership, and that's why I wrote my book, Priority Living: 7 Pillars to Make Your Life Count. It really is a part of the backstory where I had a severe asthma attack many years ago and I died. I literally coded and was resuscitated, and I had an afterlife experience that took place when I died. And I share all that in the book. But then since that time, I really got clear that, and over time really made it apparent to me that there's 7 main areas that I'm continually being intentional about in order to live my life. And so that's what the 7 pillars are made up of. And so for me, I want to continue to help people make their life count. You don't have to die to want to and be resuscitated to want to make your life count. I know that we all want to make our life count, with people who want to make their life count in a time where it counts and matters, and in a way that matters. So that's why I wrote my book. That's why I'm continuing in this leadership space and personal development space, is adding value, equipping leaders, because everything rises and falls on leadership. And so, that's what I'm really passionate about. And I do that in a whole variety of ways, obviously through keynote speaking. I do that through coaching, one-on-one and group coaching. I do that through creating social media content. I do that through my book. More books yet to come. I believe I'm already partway through a next book. And so, I would say that that's ultimately what my desire is to continue to create shared experiences where I can inspire people to become better versions of themselves.
Nice. And for anybody out there that is looking to find their purpose, what advice would you give them?
Get my book.
Nice.
That's one piece of advice. I'm also a certified purpose coach. You probably didn't know that there was such a thing, but the Purpose Company out of Dallas certifies individuals through a process to understand not only your purpose, but how to help others discover their purpose. And as a certified purpose coach, we have an online assessment that I help people with. And so if you're interested in more information about that assessment, or if you want to download a free chapter of my book, I encourage you to go to PriorityLivingCG.com. That's my website, Priority Living Consulting Group. So it's just PriorityLivingCG.com. And you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to get you linked up with that Purpose Factor assessment, as well as you can download a free chapter of my book there too.
Nice. So we're going to be putting all of that in the description, like below. And just in case you guys don't get to the description below, please just go back in the last 10-15 seconds and take that down, because I believe that would be extremely helpful for you guys. And lastly, you kind of just said this before, but how can the people reach you?
Oh, thanks for asking. My email is bill@PriorityLivingCG.com. You can go to my website, PriorityLivingCG.com. I'm on social channels, so just under my name, Bill Goodwin. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. And then on Instagram, I'm at Coach Bill Speaks, at Coach Bill Speaks. Those are the best ways to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you, my new friend on the other end that's listening. And if I can support you and encourage you, add value to you or your business, I would love to talk about how we can partner together.
All right. Thank you, Bill. This has been a very, very special podcast episode, man. I thank you for answering the questions. I thank you for being on this platform and us having this conversation. God's will, God's speed. And hopefully this is not the last time that we will be speaking. And hopefully this is not the last time you'll be a guest on this podcast.
Oh, I'd be honored to come back, Daryl. Yeah, I'd be honored to come back. Sure, appreciate you.
No, thank you. Thank you. And for everybody that's listening and that's tuning in and you're just now catching this, whether it's now or in the near future, serve your purpose. Take action towards your dreams and aspirations. You're fully capable. And Bill Goodwin is living proof of that being the case. And that's all we have for you guys tonight. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for being with us. Thank you, Bill.
My pleasure. Keep smiling.
Yep, there we go.